that we got to know each other on a deeper level, if that's even possible, because we're sisters and we've known each
Right.
other our whole lives. I think it was just crazy to get my to know my sisters even more, which is insane.
I am beyond happy to welcome a few very special guests to the show, Daniela, Paulina, and Alejandra from The Warning. Friends, it's so good to have you here.
Likewise, thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be back.
So, we're celebrating the release of your latest album, your fifth studio album, Everything's Falling. How are you feeling on the verge of this record finally being out?
We are ecstatic for sure. I mean, I feel like we keep forgetting that it's our fifth album as a band. That feels insane. And honestly, we're just so happy that it's finally out with all of you guys and that we can start playing it live completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what runs through your head when you think about hitting that five albums? I mean, that is a significant milestone for sure.
For sure. No, I think it makes us remember what we've been through throughout all of the albums. You know, every single one of them represents a certain time and a certain identity that we have at that point. So to have Everything's Falling coming out right now, I feel like closes a chapter and a new one begins for the new era of the Warning.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to talk about that this new era. But before that, and this might be kind of connected to that idea, um, this album, as it's gotten announced and as you've talked about it, it's been described as your most intentional collection of songs you've ever written. And I would say listening through your discography, watching you live, listening to the live performances, you're very intentional in everything you do and in all the songs you write and all the music you make. So, what sort of made this different? How did you approach this one different than the past albums?
I think that the way that we went into the actual writing sessions of we were really structured. We had been kind of fantasizing about what we wanted this album to be since like almost a year before. So when we were able to carve out time from being on the road and going into a studio, we had a very laid out battle plan more than anything. We had topics and song titles and how many songs we wanted out of like each emotion that we wanted to talk about in the album. And we had visual identity before we even had the musical accompaniment to it. So by going into this process in such a like structured way, we were able to not only talk about everything that we wanted to talk about, but discover things that we hadn't known about these feelings that we had had. So I think that by intentional, we mean that it is exactly what we wanted to do since the beginning. And it turned out even better than we had hoped for.
What was one of the things you guys discovered throughout this
Ooh,
process?
well, one thing that really stuck with me was that we got to know each other on a more um deeper level, if that's even possible, because we're sisters and we've known each
Right.
other our whole lives. But we kind of found out that stuff that we wanted to talk about and experiences that we've had on the road and being a band and women and as sisters, we lived in a very different way and we hadn't really like talked about it, even though we were living the same things on stage and stuff like that. We kind of like process them in a very different way. And we kind of never had talked about it that deeply before than when we were writing some songs. So I think it was just crazy to get my to know my sisters even more, which is insane.
Yeah. Well, and hearing that, it's powerful. In hindsight, I'm sure it's beautiful, but I also imagine, maybe there's difficulty in that too, or in just in getting to those deeper places or kind of opening yourself up or being open to someone else opening themselves up. And, it is nothing new for the warning, but every song on this album, I mean, it just feels like it comes from a deeply personal place. And so I love hearing you guys say that and discovering new things. Um, like in the opening of Bruises, you saying forgiveness is expensive. Like that line just, oof, that's a deep one. Was it so as you went through this, as you discovered things, as you got to know each other better? I mean, was it difficult at times to kind of get that deep or to get that open, get that honest?
I wouldn't describe it as difficult, but maybe unexpected at times. Because then you yourself wouldn't even know you would like get that or emotional or feel that strongly about something like when you were fighting for a lyric or a specific part of the song, you're like, why am I so passionate about this? Where is this coming from? It was sort of like a musical therapy session and in moments. So yeah, no, it was, I think, more than difficult, sometimes surprising.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Which, again, like 5 albums into it and doing it for, over a decade, like to still get surprised and to still find new things like that's got to be such a great feeling.
For sure, for sure. And even though we've already written from a personal place before, because we started not writing from personal experiences when we were young, because we didn't have a lot to write about, to kind of figuring it out into now this album having fully fleshed personal experiences, kind of like being at their rawest moments. So yeah, that's definitely a new thing for us on this album.
Getting to listen through the album and we had you on the show, earlier this year when Kerosene first came out, when the album wasn't even, announced or anything like that. You talked about it and you've already mentioned it too here about this being a end of a chapter, start of a new era. And it does feel like this album feels like a new sort of starting point for the Warning, which again is weird because you've been doing this for so long and this is your fifth album, but it definitely sounds like you've tapped into something new, something fresh, like it is the beginning of something. I mean, does it feel that way to you?
I think that in a sense it does. I mean, every single album that you put out, you always think that it's your best one and that you've grown and that you've changed and that it's noticeable. But I think that with this album specifically, we felt the growth and the change before we even wrote it. We wrote Keep Me Fed, we released Keep Me Fed, and then we kept touring with it. And just the topics that we were kind of talking about writing about in the future were already so different and a little bit like more personal. So going into the studio and knowing that you already changed as a person and then that's going to be reflected on an album, it's a very like special feeling. Again, we've been a band for almost 13 years and we've changed before like the public's eyes for such a long time, but growing from being, I don't know how to explain it, but I think that the steps that we've taken as a band have been slow but steady, and now we just feel like our feet are like firmly planted on the ground and that we can explore more things that we haven't been able to explore before with such liberty and confidence because the three of us have already grown up to be able to do that. And we've learned a lot. So like even now we can focus on every single aspect of releasing an album because there's a lot. So we're excited for this new era in all the senses, musically, visually, the live shows. We're preparing so many things and we're excited for this new moments.
Could you, I mean, obviously it sounds like the way you even began to approach this album was different, structured and you had these ideas in mind. From an early point, could you feel like, oh yeah, this is going to be a special one, or this is going to be like we are going to discover new things, or we're going to push ourselves in new ways?
Well, we were hoping we would. I think we had no, I mean, we structured everything, but again, open to the possibility that everything can change.
I mean, I think it was like a scary moment because for Keep Me Fed, we had been writing throughout the years and we had like a few songs to pick from when we were deciding to, make Keep Me Fed. For this album, we had nothing and we just like went in the studio and like wrote for like what, a month.
Mhm.
And we got an album like out of
Yeah.
that. But I feel like at least personally, I was like so scared because I didn't know what to expect. Like we only had ideas and like visual ideas, images and
Phrases, something.
phrases or topics or references, musical references, but we had nothing musically going on. So I think it was a very new experience to just write everything from scratch in like a certain period of time and hoping we would get an album out of that.
Yes.
But honestly, it worked out great. I think it was a bit scary to do this in this new way, but it worked out great. Then we recorded the album and it turned out amazing.
And to Alice's point, we took the time off the road to create this album. That meant we stopped touring, but we already had tours scheduled after that. So we had to come up with an album in that time frame because we were already going back into the road. I mean, it wouldn't have had nothing would have happened if we didn't get it in that time frame, but we wanted to, we wanted to complete it so we could go out on the road and just not be touring and still working creatively during that time for that album to be only that, the time spent creatively was the only time that we worked on that album.
Was that easy to let go then when you finished it and then you went back on the road? Or were you still kind of like thinking through it like, oh, we should change this or we should do this?
It was easy. It was so easy.
Yeah.
We were just like, oh, we did it.
Yeah. We're like, we're done.
Yes.
Perfect. Let's move on.
I love that. Well, you guys have mentioned Keep Me Fed, the last album, and you recorded that in Monterey, where you're from, and you recorded Everything's Falling in Monterey too, right? What's that like recording in your hometown? Like, do you feel that? Like, does that feel special to you, or is it just?
It feels amazing.
Yeah.
I will say something now that I look back in retrospect. It is amazing, and I love being in my home and eating like stuff that I'm used to, going back to my own bed and my own shower, and just kind of like. But we got to live the other side of the coin that usually producers live. They're in their studio and the artists visit them. And now our producer visited us and was away from home for such a long time for us to do that I was like, crazy. We're living the other side of the story. And I feel like you also get kind of comfortable being in your own home. It doesn't limit you, but it's a different kind of vibe as when you're like purposely out to work. And like it takes you down a very specific path, I think, being home. And I just wonder what it would be like if it's like maybe the next one is like we're both away from home, producer and artist, or we're both. Well, no, we can't.
I love being home.
Oh yeah,
I have no complaints about this project.
No, I don't have complaints either. But I was just wondering that it puts us in a very like specific place to create a specific thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but but it is special, and not many artists, can necessarily even have that option. So the fact that you get to do it, like, it seems like do it as long as you can.
Yes.
And you talk about the producer, and again with another connection to Keep Me Fed, you worked with Anton, and as an outsider, whenever I see a band reunite with a producer, it always makes me think, man, you guys just must have had a great time, and more than that, like really built a strong, trusting relationship. And I would imagine that happened with you and Anton.
I think that. Well, first of all, Anton is incredible. Anton is not only an amazing producer and songwriter and creative in general, but he's an amazing person. So it's very lovely to work with him always. It's very lovely to be in the same room with him creatively. But the thing that I think that Keep Me Fed left us wanting was peaceful time creating with Anton. Everything that we did was so quick, and it was so like piecing things together that we had done with a lot of other people and in very different time frames. So we were like, if we were able to do this great, amazing thing with Anton, being this disorganized, what would happen if you had the actual time to sit down and fully flesh out the things that we wanted to do in an album from the very beginning? So that's why like we were so drawn to go back to Anton. Like we literally finished recording Keep Me Fed and we released it. And by that time we already knew that we were going to do the next album with Anton. And we feel like it was just the perfect decision to take because Keep Me Fed was so important to our growth as songwriters and as musicians. And Anton was a key part of that. But to like fully sink into that growth and that like this new era that we had cultivated with Keep Me Fed, I think that Anton was a really integral part of letting us like fully fledge into this new era of The Warning.
Well, and it's interesting how you describe that because now you've had two very distinct experiences with Anton, right?
Yeah.
Like that sort of frantic, disorganized, on the road type of writing and creating, and then the very intentional, like we've got a month, we've got a deadline, and we're going to create together. And so now you've been able to like that relationship has grown even more through that.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I love that. Well, I've got to ask you, so as intentional as you are about the music, and you mentioned, there's so much to making an album. And it's clear you are intentional about every aspect of the band. Um, I think the album cover for Keep Me Fed was, it was one of the coolest I had seen in a long time, but the album artwork for Everything's Falling is incredible. And it might be because I'm a little bit obsessed with the Odyssey right now, the movie.
Yes.
But it almost feels like you guys are the sirens in that story of the Odyssey.
Ooh.
Can you tell me about this cover?
Yes. The kind of overarching topic theme for the album was failure and standing up from your failure, like moving forward. And while we were writing the whole thing, our biggest kind of like analogy for this process was Icarus and flying too close to the sun. So, well, we imagined this journey to be, it was like you're Icarus and you're blinded by your own ambition, and then your wings burn, you crash, and you're just there, and like what happens after that. So the cover of Everything's Falling, it's kind of where we landed. We already crashed and we burned, and now we're at
With no
sea
wings.
and we don't have wings, and we're just kind of like these fallen angels. That's kind of the visual vibe and the reference for the cover. And we went to Los Cabos, and we were there in the ocean in these dresses, and we were just like being thrown by the waves. It was just a very magical experience to be in the environment that you imagined while you wrote an album, and then just like fully living it for the cover. It was so special.
So I'm so glad it came out great because the water was
Freezing.
freezing.
Yeah. The rocks we were on had a ton of like barnacles on it, and
Yes.
it really hurt to like sit down and like be there.
Oh,
So
no.
we're very glad everything turned out great for the cover, and it really is what we envisioned. So we're really happy.
That's so cool. Yeah, you guys suffered for your art.
Yes.
And I love too hearing that you did it after you finished the album, right?
Yes.
So you knew what the album sounded like. You knew, this collection, what it was, and then you were able to bring it to life, which is, I don't know. I guess I never really think about that. I love vinyl. I love, holding the artwork, but that connection to the artist, thinking we've created these songs, we've written these words, we've been in the studio, and now we get to bring it to life with this single picture. That's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of the process to, because we started writing it and we had this idea of the cover already. Like it was really funny that we were in writing sessions, and then sometimes we would be like, but like what is gonna be the actual like layout, like the blocking for the image? And we're writing the songs. We don't even have the album. Like, chill out. But like it feels like you're closing that process, like the creative process. You took the photo for your album cover, and that's the end. You're finished creating it.
Yeah.
Sure, you have music videos and other things like post-release, but that feels like the magical closing of that creative era.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I know you guys grew up around music, and at a young age you decided to form a band together. What was the moment for you where it went from being something that you were doing, taking lessons or whatever, learning instruments, to no, we want to do this. Like we want to make this a thing. We want to make this our life.
I don't know if it's because I'm older, but as time passes by, the less I remember that moment.
I mean, I was younger, so the less
Yes.
I remember too.
But
I feel like it was a very gradual thing.
Yeah.
You know, it was a very like I don't specifically remember like, oh, this is a turning point. Like this is the moment where I'm like, oh, flip the switch, like I'm gonna do this. Forever, I think it was just like a very gradual thing. Like we started like from learning our instruments, uploading covers, writing our own music. I feel like one of the starting moments, we got to go to the Ellen show, and when we
Yeah.
came back home, like we started getting a lot of attention and interviews, and we just like started from there, like really started working like extra hard
Yeah.
to like write music and practice and, you know, keep uploading covers and trying to get small gigs in our hometown or like in Mexico in general. And I feel like it was like, as we started getting attention, it just got more serious over time, and
Yes.
we made it a thing.
I think we usually say that when we started getting the attention, we just kind of went like, whoa, this is real.
Yeah.
But I feel like right now, if I look back, the moment it became a little bit more real for me was when we started playing original music live. And people would actually,
like
you
know
know,
the song.
know the songs or kind of just like get into it.
Yeah,
even if
like
they
pick
didn't
it.
know us. Like it's yeah, I think that moment clicked more for me.
Yeah.
It was so long ago.
So long ago.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
And we were so young. So.
Yes.
And yet you have so much ahead of you too. I mean, like that's
Yes.
like such a
Oh.
weird place to be, right?
Yeah, it's very strange to think that we've been a band for 13 years, but we still have so much of our lives ahead of us.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's a big blessing to have like 10 years of experience and you're only, what, 21?
Yes.
So, I can't complain. It's great.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. All that experience. Sometimes people start when they're 21, you know? And so
Right. Oh.
to be at this point and be like, oh yeah, we've released 5 albums, we've toured the world. It's a pretty amazing place to be. I got to ask, I don't know if I've ever heard the story, but where did the name The Warning come from?
Oh,
It's a bad story.
it's a bad story. Well,
It's a
no,
lame one.
it's a lame one. Yeah, it's
All
not.
right.
Yeah, because we were kids and we
Yeah.
literally needed a name for a Battle of the Vans type event. And we had fantasized, I think, at what point we're making an album, and we called it The Warning for some reason. We even had a cover. We were thinking of a cover, you see, from a very early age.
Covers are important.
Yeah.
But honestly, we needed a name.
Yeah.
We came up with The Warning. The Warning stuck, and we went viral. Like, to be honest, nobody loved The Warning.
No one liked it.
No.
Wait, like of
Oh,
us.
fuzz.
Like,
Yes.
internally, we didn't love it,
We're
but then
like,
we went
okay.
viral, and we went
We're
viral
like,
with The
The
Warning.
warning. So we were like,
So,
we can't change it now.
The Warning it is.
Yeah.
And then we realized that no one really had I thought it was kind of like a normal name to have, but no one had taken it. Like there was no
I think there was
Warning.
like some
older
foreign bands, but
maybe.
yes.
Well, but legally.
But exactly. We were able to trademark it, so we were like, yeah, I'm doing this now. Woo!
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and 13 years later, however many years later, like, well, no, it's a pretty good name, and it seems like it fits
is.
perfect,
So
you know?
Us, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we love it.
Like, we
love
never
it.
hated it. It
No,
was just
yeah.
nobody was like extremely
passionate about it,
It
you
was
know?
like, okay, sure, that's fine.
So you've already had a big year, even before the album was announced, right? You released Kerosene. You were part of some incredible shows with Yungblud. What was that like being on the road with him?
Oh, it was great. And it was intense. He has a very intense schedule, honestly. Props to him and all of his team. We learned a lot, like always, and we loved his community and his audience. They were very welcoming. And honestly, we just had a great time. Yeah.
You say you learn a lot, and you've toured with a lot of bands, and you've played with a lot of bands, played a lot of festivals. Are you always kind of soaking up like, oh, here's what this person does, or here's what we shouldn't do, like that kind of thing?
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. We love seeing the shows from an enjoyment point of view and then an analytical point of view. Just kind of,
we
can
make a
learn from
point
this.
out of like if we're already on tour with somebody and when you're a supporting band, your job there is to support, is to give the best show that you can, hype the people up, warm the stage up, but also like not get in the way of like all
The actual
people, like the work that
Yes.
people need to do. But also you're in a very like blessed and like privileged opportunity of getting to see everything that happens behind the curtain for a show and how people perceive the show as well. So when you can see like both sides of that coin, you can learn from like how the audience is reacting to certain moments, what people have to do behind the curtain to make those moments happen. How can you incorporate it in your own way? Like, it's just a very big, wonderful learning experience where you have the time to actually learn.
Yeah, well, and I mentioned all you've played with so many bands, and Youngblood or 3 Days Grace or GNR or Hailstorm, they're pretty reckless. You've obviously played gigantic European festivals and the big festivals here in the States, and your own headlining shows and all of that. Um, but even so, like with all again, we talk about all the experience you've had already. Uh, you know, this is a new chapter, a new era. It's starting for the Warning. As you think about all that you've done, all that you've been part of, but also this kind of complete blank slate that's ahead of you on this new journey. Uh, what is the hope? What is the dream for the band right now?
Oh my God.
Simple question.
Right. Yeah. The dream, I feel like, is take our music to as much places as we can in the most healthy way possible. You know,
I think that it sounds really weird when we say it because we're so young.
yes.
But honestly, the dream is to be able to do what we do in a sustainable way for our health, our happiness, our peace, for our whole team as well. To have enough time on the road and enough time off the road, to have fulfilling experiences while you're on the road, to have time off, to enjoy where you're at. Just like carving out those spaces to live life while you're like doing what you love the most, which is to share music. But also, like, when you're so, like, when you get tunnel vision when you start doing these things, and sometimes other things start to lose their priority. So I think that the dream is for us to find that
A
balance
healthy
of
balance for sure.
being like not necessarily getting tunnel vision, like being able to do what we do in a structured, like heavy way, but also like balancing everything so it can be healthy for literally everyone around us. Because it's not only us who like we're on tour and we're away or whatever. Our whole crew does that as well. Our team, like there's just like so many people involved into making the Warning what is the Warning. So if we can find like the dream is to take a step like higher in what it means to give a show and the amount of people that are there and like just sharing our music overall, but also like finding this like perfect, wonderful balance that I think is really hard to achieve because what is a perfect balance? But at least find
And
the
for
one
who?
like for a team for sure.
How do you protect that? Because you talk about healthy and sustainable, and
Right.
I imagine that means a whole lot of different things, right? Like obviously physical health and spiritual or emotional health, your mental health, all of that. Like how do you sort of protect that as you're on the road, as you're touring the world?
You know, it depends. Also, with trying to keep a balance, I think it's up to us and to everyone to also keep an open mind that it's not always going to be possible, but the intention behind it is really important. Um, and sometimes we have to protect it with, saying no to a few shows or not visiting certain places because we can't stay 3 months in a row to, visit every single place that wants to see us. And we love that everyone wants to see us. But yeah, sometimes you have to figure out how to do a little bit and then take a step back and then come back maybe later, even though the maybe later is a year off because you have to like our schedules work in years.
Yes, like
And
we
like
already had 2 years booked ahead.
for sure.
Yeah.
And when people are like, "You're not visiting this place," and I feel like, "No, but I am. I'm just doing it a year later." And for me, it's already happening, but they have no idea, of course.
Right.
We have contact.
But yeah, sometimes it just has to be a little bit more spaced out.
But apart from scheduling, I think that the things that we do is just like we're very open about how we're feeling and we try to let our team know that it's okay if they do as well. To just like give each other space because sometimes, as Danny said, like sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you have to do 50 shows in a row because it is like it you tried everything out and it's the only way where it's economically feasible, where time allows you because you have something booked later in that month. Like there's just so many factors
Variables, yeah.
to keeping things healthy. So what we try to do is like keep our food healthy, try to exercise, give each other space if we're not feeling that well, open conversations so people can share how they're feeling. And honestly, more than anything, I call it being Dua Lipa. Like if you try to be Dua Lipa and you try to enjoy things while you're on tour, you try to go out, You try to go to a nice place for dinner. You try to see the city. Like when we all have our Dua Lipa moments, things feel better. It feels healthier.
Yes. We're assuming Dua Lipa does that because
Yes.
of social media. We don't know her.
I don't know her thoroughly.
No.
Or
But
personally.
she looks like she lives a good life on tour.
Yes, yeah. Well, and it's interesting you say, you schedule in years, and because like when this album comes out, right? It's the first time fans get their hands on it.
Yeah.
You guys are like, yeah, we've been done with this. We sat on a rock in the cold ocean. We're like, we're done. We're ready. We're moving forward. And you even said when Keep Me Fed was finished, you guys already had this idea for the next album. And so, once this album is out, you've got 3 sold out shows at the Fonda Theater in LA, which is amazing, followed by Louder Than Life in Louisville. Are you thinking about like what's next? Not tours or shows, but like musically, like what comes after this already?
I can
Not
say
at
no.
all.
We're honestly,
Not this time.
honestly, this time we're so focused on
On
this
this
album,
one, yes.
on the rollout, the music videos. Like,
Hmm.
there's so many things of like
The rehearsals.
packaging, rehearsals, and merch, and this. Like, we've been planning this for like
In
so
a
long.
year.
Like, well, I feel like the Yungblud tour
Mhm.
was like the tour in the US where we did like everything for the album, from like packaging, inserts, videos, like
Signing,
it was
everything.
crazy. So we're honestly really focused on making this album work and rehearsing it for live shows, potential set lists. We're just very focused on this album and how we're gonna tour.
I think we'll
with this
start
album.
worrying about that when the album is released and we feel that we've got like the songs under control when we play them live. When things settle down
Or after the
a
first
bit.
headlining tour or something. I feel
Yes.
like it has to like have a
I mean-
moment and then we
visually I have ideas, but I always have visual ideas. But like musically,
Not yet.
None. I have
focusing
none.
on this one.
Is this the first time with an album release where you kind of feel that way, where you're like, we're 100% in the album. We're not
I
thinking
think-
about what's next.
I think we
No.
Keep Me Fed. It was the same thing
No. Well, a little
mean-
bit. I think with Error it was more of a thing.
with Error.
Yes.
I don't feel that way because in Error we had
Like
songs
3 years.
left over.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. But
It was a
I feel
pandemic.
like the first months you're like so
You're so
in
in
it.
it.
I think that after like 2 months things will start to get. But I mean, at least personally, I work that way.
Okay. No, I can't imagine myself 2 months after the release of this album thinking like no, I can't.
I feel like maybe 2 months after touring.
Yes.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll catch up in a couple months. And
Yeah.
we'll see how
Yes.
you're
Okay.
feeling. Daniela, Paulina, Alejandra, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for celebrating this new album and just diving into all of it. Listeners, get everything you need. Stay caught up. Grab the album at thewarningband.com. And the 3 of you know this. I love having you on the show and catching up. You are welcome back anytime. It's always an open door for you.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Chuck.